Alright, it's Christian Hannah Horror back here with Friday the 13th Part 2. I will go on record in saying that, although it's not my number one favorite Friday the 13th, I will say that I do say this is the best made one of the bunch, in my opinion. Now, I know a lot of you might be saying no, Part 4 was. To me, it was a close tie at which one was the best made one. But 2, I just think, has a little bit more of an edge over 4, or final chapter. But just by a smidge, it's very close. So, now you know what I think about Part 4, although we'll talk more about that at a later date. Today, we're talking about Friday the 13th 2. You know, one thing I really like, and I know some people don't like it, a lot of hardcore fans like it. Huge fan of the sack mask. I understand, and I do like the hockey mask better. Don't get me wrong. I understand why it wasn't utilized more, because, as Frank Mancuso himself said, there was no substance to it. It wasn't an iconic thing. It wasn't like the Michael Myers mask. The second you saw that, you go, "That's Michael Myers," and I see what they mean by that. But damn it if it wasn't freaky as all hell. I mean, true, the Town That Dreaded Sundown did the paper bag first, but obviously that movie didn't have as much as popularity as Friday the 13th did. But, nonetheless, if they ripped them off, they ripped them off. It is what it is. It happens in the movie business. I'm not sticking up for them, but they did it. They ripped them off. But, man, I loved the paper sack. I kind of want to just kind of openly talk about this film and not just discuss, the plot and everything. But before I do that, I will say this. The things that are great about this movie, I think you have great characters all across the board. Acting-wise, I don't think anybody dropped the ball on this. I know Amy Steele is a lot of people's favorite, Friday the 13th girl, and she was great. It was because she really wasn't dumb. Not that any of them were at all, but she had a little bit more of a smartness to her that you don't notice in some of the other ones. A little bit more of a strength to her, and I think that comes across the screen pretty well. I kind of want to talk about what everybody usually talks about in this movie, and that's the dilemma. Or not the dilemma, but the questions about who played Jason in this movie. For the longest time, everybody only knew Jason as Warrington Gillette in Friday the 13th Part 2. Then we get the Crystal Lake Memories book, and all of a sudden the Steve Dash guy comes out of the woodworks and says, well, I shouldn't say out of the woodworks, but this Crystal Lake Memories book comes out, and all of a sudden he's saying, this guy did one scene. He didn't want to do stunts. I don't know why he took the job of this movie. I got called to come save the day and become Jason. And he goes, I didn't realize this guy's getting his name on everything. His name's on the credit for the movie. He got the credit for everything, but hell, I did everything except pretty much, maybe 1 or 2 scenes that Warrington did. And based on what he said and the lack of communication from Warrington since this whole thing went down, I gotta agree with what everybody pretty much is saying. And, Steve Dash is the real Jason, Friday the 13th Part 2. Why Warrington still got the credit, I don't know. It's probably a legal thing. But, it's just kind of weird. I'm sure you've all noticed, ever since that whole thing came about and you found out the quote-unquote truth about everything, Warrington has been silent. I haven't seen him at a convention. I haven't seen him. I know he used to do conventions, but what's the deal now? Where is he at? What's happened? Now that Steve Dash came out and spilled the beans, if he was Jason and like he said he was, you think he'd come out and say, no, I was Jason too. I did a lot of this stuff and blah, blah, blah. But because of based on the evidence and things that, Steve has said. I think Warrington said, I'm found out now. It was fun while it lasted. So, I don't know. My thing is just, if Warrington... it's interesting. I guess what's he supposed to say all these years later when he's doing these documentaries for the movies and stuff? I guess he's just gonna keep riding the wave and not just say, well, I really wasn't Jason. I was, but I wasn't. I mean, I kind of quit because I didn't like doing the stunts, that's fine. If you didn't want to do the stunts, you didn't want to do the stunts. But it's also Steve Dash's fault and Steve Dash's fault because for not getting as much credit as he did fan-wise because he kept his mouth shut for so long. But nonetheless, we know now, and I know Steve is getting back on the convention circuit. I just saw that on Facebook, so that's good. But yeah, part 2 is great. I like I like all the little scenes in it. I like the little excuse me. I like that little shack that you see in part 2 where Jason was supposedly quote unquote living. It was very nasty looking. It kind of, it was creepy. It's like, this guy's living in this thing, And if you ask me, I think Paul died. I think something happened to Paul and he died. He may not have, but I know this: he wasn't in the next movie. So, I thought the ending of part 2 was awesome. I think that was the best ending of a Friday the 13th movie. Along with being very close with part 4. But I do think the ending of part 2 was just perfect. I love the ending of part 2. When you get to see Mrs. Voorhees' head. Just iconic. A lot of iconic images in part 2. And the last thing I'll touch on is, I think they actually were going to try to use Adrienne King in this whole movie in the beginning. But like she's talked about, she had some kind of stalker issue go on, and it ruined her movie career, or it caused her to be scared to go into a movie career. And I don't think Adrienne did anything after Friday the 13th, besides the beginning of part 2. Quite interesting. But yeah, if you guys ask me, part 2 is probably one of the best ones made. It's not my favorite, but I think it's the best made Friday the 13th, if that makes sense. I think you guys probably understand what I mean by that. But yeah, what do you guys think about part 2? Is it your favorite in the series? Do you not like it at all? Do you not like the paper bag head? Or do you like that? Is Steve Dash your favorite Jason? Let's talk about it. We'll be back with part 3 next. But for now, this is Christian Hannah Horror. Y'all be good.